Crystal skulls are human skull hardstone carvings made of clear or milky white quartz, claimed to be pre-Columbian Mesoamerican artefacts by their alleged finders. Some individuals believe in the paranormal claim that crystal skulls have healing properties and that they were created by advanced extraterrestrials who visited Earth in ancient times. Join myself and Neil here on Aliens Explored as we put our heads together to try to get to the bottom of the mystery that surrounds these curious artefacts.
Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a sceptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it? Hello listeners and welcome back to Aliens Explored, your weekly look at those mysterious skies, outer limits, undersea, smoky back rooms, wherever. I'm one of your hosts, Neil Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Stu Jackson. How you doing, Neil? You've been feeling a bit under the weather lately, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I had, I think, a bit of food poisoning last week, which put me in hospital on a drip. And also had my COVID jab, which left me feeling a bit rough the last couple of days. So yeah. If you have your COVID jab, usually any jab like that, COVID or flu, they'll ask you, are you left-handed or right-handed, and recommend that the jab goes in your not your main arm, but your other arm. Actually, what you need to think about, this is my top tip, think about the side you sleep on, because if you have the COVID jab, your arm will be sore. If you sleep on your left side, don't have it in your left arm. Follow me for more tips or life hacks.
Good advice, good advice. Did you have your flu jab at the same time?
No, I've got that. I've got to go somewhere else for that. But yeah, that's in next week, I think.
I've done it the other way around. I had my flu jab on Saturday, so I've got to.
Okay.
I need to book in for my COVID jab. But
neither of us are spring chickens. We're both vulnerable adults, and we've got to look after ourselves.
That's it. We're getting pretty ancient, and speaking of ancient, that segues very nicely onto today's topic, because we're looking at allegedly ancient artefacts, specifically the crystal skull.
The crystal skulls, yeah. So why are we talking about crystal skulls, Stu? What have they got to do with
The theory goes that these are pre-Columbian Mesoamerican skull. In particular, the most famous of these is the Mitchell-Hedges skull, the skull that was found by someone called Mitchell-Hedges, Anna Mitchell-Hedges, back in the 1940s.
Okay.
These are allegedly they're human-sized skulls made out of crystal, as you would expect for crystal skulls. This has nothing to do with the Indiana Jones movie, which was just tripe, by the way. So
I don't think Indiana Jones is meant to be a serious look at anything.
Probably not, but that was the worst of the Indiana Jones movies by a long shot. Anyway, we're not doing a movie review. So yeah, these are. There's a handful of these original skulls that were claimed to have been found, either in clear quartz or a milky white quartz, and absolutely perfect throughout. So even though, like I say, allegedly ancient, showing no signs of kind of hand tools chipping them out or anything like that. So it has been theorized that only an advanced technology could have actually made them, and a lot of people put that together, of course, with the ancient alien theory that we've been visited and throughout the ages by aliens who have left little indicators here and there for us to follow the breadcrumbs on, and this might be one of them. Skulls that,
no, I knew
as to how they could have been made back then.
I knew someone who was into crystal skulls. She was often on about them. It was a writers group I belonged to, and then one day we turned up and she'd brought all these skulls with her, about maybe half a dozen or more, all different shapes and sizes. I don't think she actually had a human-sized one. She might have had
that
one,
wouldn't
but
have been the original
most
ones,
of them,
obviously.
Most of them are significantly sort of this kind of size.
That's it. That's one of the larger ones that you often see. So you've touched on an interesting point here that a lot of people claim about these skulls, and I'm saying this as someone who believes in crystal healing, crystal therapies. A lot of people say that these crystal skulls have healing or mystical properties and energies to them, especially these originals that were found. But you go to any sort of new age crystal shop, that they'll have shelves dedicated to
they're churned out en
of
masse,
all different sizes. What was that? Sorry?
They're produced en masse, aren't they? I mean, there's a number of them in the British Museum and the Smithsonian Institute. On closer examination, they revealed markings that they could only have been made with modern carving implements. So they reckon they were made sometime in the mid to late 1800s.
This is the claim that there have been a lot of fakes that have been made since the original was found. The earliest known is actually at the British Museum. It was found in 1881, or it was presented to the British Museum in 1881. I don't know anything about its provenance, though. Nobody seems to.
What the British Museum pinpointed the manufacture of most of the skulls to an area of Germany famous for manufacturing intricate quartz and crystal designs in the late 19th century. The crystal is said to be found in Brazil or Madagascar. Its examinations, and it says, and this is from National Geographic, and the fact that no such skull has ever been uncovered as an official archaeological excavation led the British Museum to extrapolate that all of the famed crystal skulls are likely fakes. So, is this someone? Are we saying that? No one's ever found one as an official excavation, but someone has turned up with a thing that they're claiming came from their excavation, or
so.
Yes, you weren't there, but I found this thing.
That would be accurate. However, you've got to also bear in mind the way, particularly in the 1800s, that archaeological excavations were. None of them were ever official. They were basically looters. They were tomb raiders. Not in the Lara Croft vein, but there's one chap, I've forgotten his name now. But he was famous as an Egyptian archaeologist, made huge, massive discoveries. This is pre-Carter days. So pre-Tutankhamun, and the way so this guy was I've forgotten his name and it's really irritating. But I know he was an ex-circus strongman. That was kind of how he made his name and his money.
Did he have a big moustache and a bald head?
Did, and a great big bushy beard. Yeah, he certainly did. And you know, his way of getting into these ancient Egyptian tombs was the way all archaeologists got into those ancient Egyptian tombs was with dynamite. They'd come across a tomb door and they would blow the bloody doors off. You know, now obviously that's how archaeology was back in those days. You'd have basically these tomb robbers going in, finding lots of like nice things that they hadn't destroyed, showing no care for their surroundings, grabbing as much as possible, and then taking it back to the British Museum and selling it to them.
So when was this? Was this 19th century?
That was in the
19th century.
Yes.
Well, I suppose dynamite only became available late 1800s, didn't it? I think. I'm
saying dynamite, explosives. You know. But they did used to use explosives to get into tombs. No care was taken or anything like that.
And of course, it's colonialism, isn't it? It's Egypt was under British rule. I think it wasn't it, at that time? I don't know when it came under.
Probably. My history on that is but I'm using that as an example because obviously we're talking about Mexican or Mesoamerican.
We're talking about Mexican pyramids. Or
tombs, not necessarily pyramids, but Mesoamerican archaeological sites that it was claimed these skulls came from. So yeah, so my point with all of this, I've kind of gone a little bit rambly here, but my point is that where the British Museum say, well, there are no official records of the archaeological site, no, there wouldn't be, because people didn't take official. Very occasionally the British Museum would organise their own dig, and yes, they'd have records of that, of course, but that was maybe, very, very rare.
Maybe even
almost
then
all digs were.
Maybe even then they wouldn't want to admit to it. We've someone brought us these interesting artifacts. We're gonna no one's claimed ownership, so we're gonna display them in our museum.
Yeah. So yeah, I get the point. You know, yes, there's no official record of where it came from. No, but yeah, there just wouldn't be. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, going back on the Egyptian side of things, just as an interesting. So my ex was an Egyptian archaeologist, so that's how I know quite a lot of this stuff. But back around that time as well, mummies were bought and sold to the general public, and in fact, the Victorians used to have mummy unwrapping parties, where they would buy an Egyptian mummy and get all the friends round and like have a few drinks, and it's all jolly, and they would unwrap the mummy.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of people, in fact, back then, so obviously we're talking the very wealthy elite.
Was that in Victorian times? I mean, I know there was a fascination for all things Egyptian in the 1920s after the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. I know people had Egyptian themed parties then, and there were all sorts of Valentino and Nureyev and all sorts playing these Egyptian romantic heroes.
But huge, like we're talking hundreds and hundreds of mummies utterly destroyed, and not just human mummies. But yeah, they used to like have mummies as decoration, like standing up in the corner of a room. That's why a lot of them now to this day are like, they're damaged at the knees, because of the weight. They're obviously not designed to be stood up, and that's how they kept them. But not just human mummy. A lot of cats were mummified.
Oh yeah,
as well. Yeah, and just hundreds and hundreds of these things utterly destroyed. Because that's how people work. So so with these crystal skulls, the fact that they don't have an official record of like it didn't come from an official dig. There basically weren't official digs back then. So
I mean, this National Geographic article says the fact remains that no one knows for sure who made these skulls and when, and since there is currently no way to accurately determine the age of such inorganic objects, the mystery would like to... Is that true, that they can't determine the age? I thought they were bringing back lumps of an asteroid that they could tell was 4.6 billion years old or something like that. Or is that, when they say accurate, they mean within a million or a billion years?
Well, you've got carbon dating. Which is probably, I mean, it's not that accurate, but it is probably the most accurate.
And can you do that with minerals? Can you do that with a rock or a crystal?
You can, but all it will tell you, in the case of one of these crystal skulls, is how old the original crystal was.
Yeah.
It won't tell you at what time, what date it was formed.
No.
So you can get a...
What date someone carved it into a skull?
You can go out tomorrow, Neil, and buy Janet a beautiful diamond ring. You have my permission now.
Thank you.
But you can go out and do that, right? And have the diamond carbon dated, and it won't tell you what date it was mined. It won't tell you what date it was cut. It'll tell you what date it was formed originally.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But you can do that with the diamond. Okay.
Yeah, you can do that with the crystal skulls, but again, it won't tell you what date they were created or what date they were cut, basically.
Right. So why are we talking about crystal skulls on a show about UFOs and alien
a lot of people
artifacts?
have made huge associations between the two. That they say that the theory is that extraterrestrials have visited and influenced cultures all over the world, particularly Mesoamerican cultures, and that they have created or formed or tooled or machined or whatever these crystal skulls and left them as a kind of footprint in the sand of their being here.
When we say Mesoamerican, we're talking, is that the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayas, that those civilizations?
Yes, that sort of collective.
And we know that skulls feature prominently in their culture. With them, for instance, the Mexican Day of the Dead. They have lots of. They dance around with huge papier-mâché skulls. But
de Muerte, isn't it?
So Dia del Muerte, yeah.
Dia
del Muerte, yeah. The Day of the Dead.
Yeah. Human sacrifice is talked about a lot with Mesoamerican cultures as well, and skulls had definitely a significance and an importance. No two ways about that. So
because they would have been left with a pile of them after a day of sacrificing. Yeah. So, I mean, are there any skulls that are shaped in a strange way that look like ET or an alien grey? Or
no,
I suppose you could make one any shape you want, couldn't you? Really, if you wanted to make a skull.
And indeed, people do. So there are crystals that are made. I say made, worked. I'm just going to use the word "made" as a shorthand for creating these things. Yes, you do go. Like, again, you go into these crystal shops, and yes, they'll have like human-shaped skulls, and they'll have alien grey-shaped skulls. ET-shaped skulls, whatever. That's an affectation. This is why I get irritated with like Indiana Jones. It's just like that's just made up bollocks. The
it's not all
original
Indiana Jones made up bollocks. I mean the Lost Ark of the Covenant and all this. Actually, that's my problem with Indiana Jones. I remember going to watch the first one the Raiders of the Lost Ark in the cinema, and I thought, wow, that was a real sort of crash bang, exciting adventure, a real sort of an old fashioned kind of action movie. And then it was only later I thought, wait a minute, when you look at what happened in that movie, the Nazis went looking for the Ark of the Covenant. They found it, they opened it, and presumably because they're evil or whatever, it killed them. And Indiana Jones, well, he might as well have stayed home in bed. I mean, yeah, he hampered them on their way to find it, but essentially he had no agency in the outcome. And then the second Indiana Jones movie came out a couple of years later, which was quite panned by the critics. I think it's since been... People have rehabilitated it. They say, well, it's actually not that bad, or it's so bad it's good, or whatever. But
it really is
so
bad.
It kind of turned me off the whole Indiana Jones thing anyway. And of course, I lament the rise of the infantilization of cinema since the early 1980s. But,
okay,
but
I keep referring to Indiana Jones, and I'm saying like, but it's made up nonsense. Okay, with Crystal Skull. So I'm gonna qualify what I'm saying. I'm gonna put the second Indiana Jones movie to one side, because that wasn't about, or as I recall, it wasn't about like a specific archaeological find. But the first movie was about the Ark of the Covenant, which a lot of people have. They claim is a real thing. It's certainly referred to in a lot of documents. The third movie is about the Holy Grail, which again is allegedly a real item. The most recent movie is about the Antikythera. That's going to be something we'll be discussing at some point, so just warning you on that one. Which, okay, the way they present the Antikythera is completely and utterly wrong, but it is a real thing. It's a thing that has been found. The crystal skulls thing, yes, crystal skulls are real, but they're not alien-shaped, and they're certainly not magnetic, and yeah, it's a bastardization of a real thing. Whereas the others are more elaborating on a real thing.
Joshua Shapiro, the co-author of Mysteries of the Crystal Skulls Revealed, cites claims of healings and expanded psychic abilities from people who have been in the presence of such skulls. He said, quote, "We believe the crystal skulls are a form of computer which are able to record energy and vibration that occur all around them. The skull will pictorially replay all events or images of the people who have come into contact with them, i.e. they contain the history of our world." Well,
that's quite a big assumption, I would say.
That's quite, I would imagine, from their viewpoint, from everything in our world that happened within 10 feet of them.
I mean, so I'm like I say, I'm someone who believes in the healing powers of certain crystals. And when you think that, quartz, we use it like scientific in technology today all the time for channeling certain energies. Well, why not other kinds of energies as well? That's
Yeah,
I'm not going to go too far into my personal theories on all that, but
it's kind of new age stuff. I mean, when I was first diagnosed with diabetes, there were all manner of people who say, "Oh, well, no, you don't need to inject insulin. You can just, I've got this special diet you can follow, or I've got this, or here's this amber crystal. Wear this round your neck on a chain, and your diabetes will go away." No, it fucking won't. It's a,
so you're aware.
yeah.
It's not amber.
Yeah, but you're not using that instead of medication, instead of injecting the hormone that my body can no longer produce on its own. I just have to inject that hormone. There's a crystal can't. Well, I don't. Maybe it's because I don't believe, but
Well, interesting you should say. So I said I wasn't going to go down this. Right, we're clearly going right down this rabbit hole. So my personal thing, I'm going to give you a real Cliff Notes short version of it, is that in fact it's not the crystal themselves. I believe in the power of the human mind. You know, that's where the power is, and things like crystal healings, or you know, people talk about candle magic and certain symbols having, you know, mystical power. I think it's just a way of focusing our unconscious mind to channel energies. Personally, anyway,
the mind
let's
can
not go too far down this rabbit hole.
No, the mind has great power. You know, the right attitude
Yes,
can
does.
do a lot. There have been tests that have proven that Nurofen, which is an ibuprofen-based medicine, which costs far more than a packet of generic Nurofen in the chemists. You know, it costs 10 times as much, but they've shown that people get better outcomes from it because they buy this Nurofen and say, "Oh, this is targeted to fix your joint pain or your back pain or whatever," and it's just ibuprofen, but people actually do get better outcomes from it because a lot of it is the placebo effect.
Yeah, don't underestimate the placebo effect. So anyway, yes. Coming back onto the topic, you're absolutely right. A lot of people do claim that, like I say, that these skulls do have healing properties or mystical aspects to them. None of which can be proved in a scientific, proved in a lab one way or the other, of course.
With our current level of knowledge.
With our current level of technology, yeah.
Yeah, there's maybe energy coming from them that we don't have the technology to pick up. So,
yes,
I still want to talk about the extraterrestrial aspect. Of them.
Yeah, well, it's no more and no less than what I've just said, which is that some people believe that extraterrestrials created these things because the technology wasn't available to humans at that time.
So there are
they were made.
So there are some of these skulls.
It's worth noting as well that, like I said, the most famous one is the Mitchell-Hedges skull, which was found in 1942.
Where was it found?
One that makes that quite different from the 1881 one in the British Museum is the Mitchell-Hedges skull has a movable jaw.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's obviously it's two pieces of crystal together, but the jaw is actually movable, whereas in the 1881 skull, it's all one piece.
And with the 1881 skull, they can say, well, yeah, we know, all right, we can carbon date the crystal, as you said, and we can tell, but I suppose put it under a microscope, we can tell what kinds of tools we use to make this and when those tools would have been available. But with this skull that was found in 1942, are they saying, do they have a skull where they say, well, actually, we don't have any tools that could carve this in this way?
So that is an excellent question. So this, the Mitchell-Hedges skull. It's also for our listeners' benefit. It's also known as the crystal skull of Lubantum, which is allegedly where it was found.
Where's Lubantum? Sorry,
they do know Lubantum.
Lubantum. Where is
Lubantum.
That? Sounds African.
I've no idea.
Lubantum. Okay.
Obviously, they have looked at that under a high-powered microscope, and they can tell it was worked with high-speed metal tools and also with diamond.
Okay.
So, do you know what? We've hit that point in the show when we like to sum up where we are with these things. So these skulls. What do you reckon? You seem pretty convinced that, yes, extraterrestrials came down, made these things, buggered off again?
Of course.
Is that about right?
Yeah, well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Let's travel billions of light years across the galaxy to deliver these little ornaments, and then we'll fuck off again.
So go on, what do you think? What's your theory on them?
I mean, I know that in certain Latin American cultures, skulls are very important. I can see where crystal skulls come from. There was a fascination in the 19th century. I know people who still, well, I used to know someone who swore by them now and claimed all sorts of healing powers. I'm sceptical about it, I have to say. I think they're nice to look at, they're nice to handle, but I'm not sure that it goes beyond that, really. I'd like one on my mantelpiece, and if it's doing me any good by being on my mantelpiece, well, that's a bonus, isn't it? But I wouldn't take it any further than that.
Well, you would want to make sure that your mantelpiece is in the right place of the room, because you want to incorporate your feng shui.
You have to incorporate feng shui. Feng shui has a role to play in this, is it right?
Well,
okay.
I'm set because I also do feng shui as well as crystal healing. But yes, having it. I'm thinking about your.
For our listeners who don't know feng shui, that's moving your furniture around, isn't it? That's fixing your life, fixing your problems by moving your furniture around. But your mantelpiece is something you can't move. You can only move the room around in relation to the mantelpiece. The mantelpiece is
in your property. Your property is divided up into different quadrants, and each quadrant means a different area of your life. So, for example, there's one quadrant that equals kind of financial success. There's one that equates to your health and things like that.
Okay.
Okay, so you're not convinced.
No,
you're not convinced. That's your update. Well, this might not surprise you. It might surprise you. I don't know. Might surprise our listeners. I honestly think they're all fakes. I mean, not fakes, but modern creations.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them are ancient. When I was saying the way archaeologists used to do it, they used to blow shit up. I mean, which they absolutely did. But people also used to create a lot of fakes. That was a common thing to do back then. So, yeah, I think this was just something that was... I think Anna Mitchell-Hedges either saw the one in the British Museum and had a different one recreated, or somebody scammed her, or, it's going to be impossible to tell. But, yeah, I think we're looking at modern creations here. The crystals themselves, well, I do believe in crystals having certain properties could well be, as you said earlier, a placebo effect, but that would be why some people experience effects from crystal skulls, because they believe it.
Yeah.
But there we go. That's what I think is, nothing to do with aliens at all. But a lot of people do make that connection, so I thought it was a worthy topic for the podcast.
We got to cover all the bases.
That's it. So, but listeners, let us know what you think about the crystal skulls. Are we completely way off the mark here? Is there something magical, mystical, supernatural, extraterrestrial to them that we've completely missed? Or are you on the same page as us that, nah?
or do you own a crystal skull? Is there one sat on your mantelpiece that's currently doing you good, or which has cursed you? Perhaps.
Do let us know that. Definitely let us know exactly what you think, and you can do so by emailing us aliensexplored@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube, and whilst we're at it, do give us a quick like and subscribe on YouTube. We definitely appreciate that. And if you are one of our Patreon subscribers, for the low price of £2 a month, then you get exclusive access to our Discord server as well. So maybe have a look and a think about that one. Join us next time, though, when we'll be looking at another interesting theory, the legend that is the Mothman. So you don't want to miss that one.
We definitely don't.
In the meantime, keep watching out for these archaeological digs and items that come out of them, because you never know, something might be of interest. And of course, keep watching the skies.
Catch you next time. Catch you next time. Bye bye. Aliens Explored is a Fecal Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter or Facebook by searching Aliens Explored, or visit us on aliensexplored.com.